Hello everybody and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. Manchester United 9, Southampton 0. I didn't expect to be saying that. I was actually at Old Trafford the day Manchester United beat Ipswich Town 9-0 some years ago now. I can't remember exactly what year it was. I remember Andy Cole, I think he got 5 goals, was it 4? I think he got 5 goals, Andy Cole, in that game. But I was at that game a long time ago. Obviously, because of COVID, these days couldn't be at the game last night, but you know, great to get the goal difference boosted. That was a right bonus. Seen a lot of people sort of saying that they don't have any sympathy, and one or two saying they do. I've got sympathy for Southampton. I love football, and I feel sorry for football managers when they've got massive injury list and they have to play, and then he has to play a young kid in midfield who I think was making his debut, who does what he did to Scott McTominay in the first 2 minutes. It was a disgrace. It was a shocking, well, you can't really call it a tackle. He was nowhere near the ball. What the kid was thinking, I've got absolutely no idea. You can't call it a tackle. It was an assault on Scott McTominay. He didn't go anywhere near the ball, didn't go for the ball. And it's just astonishing, and he had to go, and what his manager must have been thinking of that and what he's thinking about it today. I dread to think whether that lad will play again. He might well play again, but it might be a long time before he does. But anyway, great to win 9-0. Before I carry on, I'm going to speak about the game and the position in the table. I mentioned yesterday that I was going to speak about number 10s. I was asked a question on Twitter yesterday morning, I think it was, by a lad who said to me, do you think Anthony Marshall would make a good number 10? To which I replied, yes, I think he's got all the attributes to make a good number 10. He already does so many of the things that for me are important to a good number 10. I like a number 10 who's naturally a front man, because number 10s come in sort of two guises really. Some midfield players like to be attacking midfield players and play a little bit ahead of the other midfield players, whereas also a number 10 can often be a forward who plays a little bit deeper than the other forward, like a false 9, if you like. If you look at, I mean, there's not a lot of difference, if any, between a number 10 and a false 9. If you look at Firmino for Liverpool, he drops deep looking for the ball. Plays simple little passes, gets full backs into good positions, and then joins back up and gets back in the box. The main difference that I see between a false 9 and a number 10 is that a number 10, if you're playing, I think you generally see, like Liverpool play sort of a 4-3 with Salah and Mane. Obviously they have to track back, but they've got Salah and Mane on the wings, and they've got Firmino at number 9, and obviously 3 midfield players. So if Firmino's an unusual situation here. He's like a number 9, a false 9, who drops back looking for the ball to get involved in the play, which I would think normally a striker who does that is normally one of a pair, leaving a striker up top. Like I used to like, a lot of people don't agree with me when I say I saw Dwight Yorke as a number 10 when United had obviously the famous treble team, and we had Beckham and Giggs on the wings, obviously Keane and Scholes in midfield generally, and up front Yorke and Cole. But Dwight Yorke used to come deeper looking for the ball. He was always there, or not always, but he was often there for the players to give the ball to if they won it back in midfield. And he'd play it out to the wings, or even play it back into another midfield player, just so United kept possession of the ball, and then he would move back up the field and join up with Andy Cole. So the difference there is, for me, Dwight Yorke was a number 10 who dropped in a little bit. Or Sheringham, by the way, Teddy Sheringham was superb at it, dropping a little bit deeper, receiving the ball, passing it off simply. I want to mention that as well. Passing it off simply either to another midfield player, just keeping you in possession and then giving him a little bit of time. He's there to receive the ball. If a player manages to win it and he's under a little bit of pressure, he can just give it straight into Sheringham's feet. He can hold it for a second, maybe spread it wide to one of the full-backs or one of the wingers. Even late, if he gets it off Keane in those days, he might give it back to Scholes and then just move up the field. But you would still have your main striker, which would usually be Cole, sometimes Solskjaer, would still be there. So you've still got your number 9. The difference with what Firmino does these days, playing for Liverpool, he drops deep looking for the ball, and it doesn't leave a number 9. So I see the job that he does as very, very similar, hardly any different whatsoever. But we call it a false 9 when he hasn't got a partner who stays in the number 9 role. But we call it a 10 when he has got a partner who stays up the field. So you still keep a number 9 in position, and we call it a number 10. So I prefer, and I've always thought this. I've got a couple of things to cover here now. I prefer my number 10 to be a striker. I like 4-4-2. I like 2 wingers. I like 2 solid midfield players. I like a number 9 and a number 10. That's how I prefer it. So I prefer my number 10 to be a forward. Forwards tend to be a touch better than midfield players with the back to goal as well. Dwight York, Teddy Sheringham, brilliant with the back to goal. Now, if you're playing 4-3-3 and you're playing with a proper number 9, real number 9, sometimes teams have, and this is what we're doing today, it's one of our midfield players who's being regarded as a number 9. So Bruno's playing as our number 10. Bruno's playing as our number 10. So I think you tend to see that if a team's playing 4-3-3, it's sometimes the one of the 3 midfield players who's regarded as a number 10. Whereas if a team's playing 4-4-2, it's often one of the 2 strikers who's regarded as a number 10. But even in 4-3-3, as United are playing quite a bit recently, last night, for example, it was Greenwood on one flank and Rashford on the other flank. As much as they are forwards, they've still got to track back. And last night, obviously, it wasn't as evident because we were dominating the game. They hardly got into our half, and as you would expect, they're playing with 10 men, and they were already sadly, badly depleted before it kicks off, and then playing for 10 men for virtually the full match. So they couldn't get out of their half. So it wasn't as obvious yesterday. But generally, even in 4-3-3, the other team are going to have times of pressure and attacking periods. So your 2 wingers have got to drop back. When your 2 wingers drop back, you've still got your 2 central midfield players and a number 10 and a number 9. It's still very, very, very much like 4-4-2, in my opinion, even when you're playing 4-3-3. So we're playing 4-3-3. We've got the 2 wide men. We've got a proper number 9, and we've got Bruno as a number 10. So in this particular situation, the number 10 is nominally a midfield player. Now, a couple of the things that I wanted to mention that when I was asked this question on Twitter, there was a few people thought I was having a go at Bruno again, as people say. I wasn't having a go at Bruno in any way, shape or form. It was a simple question. No other player was mentioned, and it was a simple question of, do I think Anthony Martial could play at number 10? Simple question, yes or no answer. There was no question about any other player. There was no question about him taking anybody else's position in the team. It was a pure, I believe we've got 4 players in our team who can all be good number 10s. We've got in our squad, I should say. We've got Bruno, we've got Van der Beek, we've got Juan Mata, and I believe Anthony Martial could. And they're all slightly different, similar some of them, but all slightly different. And I believe Anthony Martial would be the most different one. He'd be the one to me who would more resemble a Teddy Sheringham or a Dwight York, who's nominally a striker but drops in to receive. And here's the next thing that I wanted to mention on Twitter, because I said this on Twitter, is brilliant at finding pockets of space, just coming in between the defenders and the midfield players, trying to receive the ball to feet, passing it simply. So I've mentioned one thing on Twitter. It was said, why you're having to go at Bruno again, which I wasn't. That's a simple question about one player. Can he play that role? Yes, he can. The next thing that somebody said was simple passes. We don't want simple passes from our number 10. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Teddy Sheringham was an absolute master at it. Coming short, receiving, feeling for his man, knowing if he's marked, that is, but trying to find a pocket of space. If marked, appreciating the fact that you've got a marker to that side, so turning this way, passing it out to the wing, or passing it to the fullback if he's overlapping, or maybe even just dropping it off. to a midfield player to give it out to the wing, but you're doing your job about keeping your team in possession and then getting yourself in the box. That's what Teddy Sheringham used to do. It's what Dwight York used to do. Another player who was great at it, who could also play at 9, and a bit more modern for those of you who maybe don't remember Dwight or Teddy, Dimitar Berbatov, fantastic at the same role, always regarded as a excuse me, always regarded as a number 9 Berber, but superb at dropping into little pockets of space, receiving the ball and making it look so easy. When I say simple passes as well, a lot of people don't realise. I mean, one of my favourite sayings, and I've said it lots and lots of times, is the Johan Cruyff saying that playing football is simple, but playing simple football is the hardest thing there is. So playing simple football isn't quite as simple as some people think it is, or quite as easy as some people think it is. But to be able to just find that bit of space, receive the ball, give an easy ball, get yourself back in the box, so you've got 2 strikers in the box if you're playing as a number 10. So you've still got a partner who's in the box. And if we were to use, and again, you don't need to come in the comments saying, oh, he's recommending we do this. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if it had to happen. Say Bruno was injured. I'm just saying that Anthony Martial and Cavani would be a great pairing in a proper 4-4-2 if we had 2 proper wide men, 2 midfield players. Cavani and Bruno. Cavani is the pinpoint. Martial drops deep, receives, turns right or left, passes to the fullback, and then one of my pet hates is that saying, and I always say this a little bit tongue-in-cheek for a bit of a laugh. They always say on the TV, is great at arriving late in the box to score headers or get on the end of crosses. They say, I've heard them say it about numerous people, but I call it arriving bang on time. They always call it I understand what they mean. What they mean is you've got people that are already standing in the box, usually just one striker, maybe the winger from the other side, but they're standing waiting and the ball's coming in from the wing. If you've just played it out to that wing, you come running in. So you're running in, you've got the run on the defenders and you've got a great advantage over them. And when they say on TV arriving late, they mean that you're arriving into the box as the ball's coming in, rather than being stood there waiting for the ball to come in. And it gives you a big advantage over your own teammates as well, believe it or not. You've got an advantage over their defenders and an advantage over your own teammates. As you're running in, you've got a bit of momentum behind you. You can also time your run as you see the ball coming in. You can slow up a little bit or you can speed up a little bit, and you've got a great chance of covering a little bit more acreage and getting onto that ball. So that's my favourite type of number 10. Again, I'm not having a go at anybody else. I'm just saying that's my favourite type of number 10. It's a number 10s that I've seen play in the past who are great at arriving late, as they say. I prefer to call it arriving bang on time. So that's my idea of a number 10. 1 or 2 other number 10s that I liked over the years. Francesco Totti, I used to like watching him play. Another one, I was gutted when he signed for Liverpool. Absolutely devastated. He didn't stay there long, and he was already really towards the end of his career. But Jari Litmanen, absolute class player. Beautiful footballer, finding little pockets of space, turning the right direction, leaving players just by turning, leaving players to one side of him, if you like, finding a simple pass, getting himself towards the edge of the box. And it's a position that I've always admired watching people in. And I would, look, we've got 4 players who can play that role, and as I say, they're all slightly different. But if we had to use Anthony Martial as a number 10, I'm absolutely certain he wouldn't let us down. And I do think he'd probably score more goals as a number 10 as he does as a number 9. As a number 9, you are that focal point. I mean, think about the different permutations as well when you're a number 10. If you've come short for the ball and you give the ball out to the wing, then you're joining into the box. As I've just explained, not only have you got that run on people, it's more difficult for them to pick you up as well. But on top of that, you've also got a teammate in the box. Anthony Martial at the minute, when he plays, he either plays on the wing sometimes, obviously, but if he plays as a 9, which is the other position we use him in, then he's the main man. Like I've just said, he's the one who's standing in the box waiting. Standing in the box waiting is not as good as running into the box. You've got more chance running into the box, and you've got even more chance running into the box if you've already got a man in there who's going to be marked and who's going to be taking the vision of the defenders. So if Martial, if we were playing 4-4-2 with Martial and Cavani, Martial could be dropping a little bit deeper into pockets of space, then arriving in the box. The defenders are already occupied by Cavani. I think Martial would do a really good job at it, and I think he'd score plenty of goals playing as a number 10, and probably even more goals than he does as a number 9. So that's my little talk on number 10s. Last night's game, Martial came on at half time as a sub, by the way, and scored 2 nice goals. His first goal, by the way, I thought was absolutely fantastic. The way he took it down on his body and managed to turn and smash it in the roof of the net. But as I said, I was at the game against Ipswich 9-0. Gutted I couldn't be there last night to see us score 9. Also matched another Premier League record. There was 7 different scorers for United plus an own goal, but 7 different scorers for United. Obviously Bruno and Rashi got on the sheet, but Martial came on as a sub and got 2. Great header by Cavani. I thought Martial's first goal was probably the pick of the bunch, but a fantastic header by Cavani, picked his spot in the first half, and a smashing strike by McTominay as well, a great goal. But got to mention, I'm mentioning all the scorers, Wan-Bissaka and Dan James. Wan-Bissaka and Dan James both getting on the score sheet. Pleased for them both. Another thing that I've mentioned on Twitter this morning, and I'm getting a lot of stick for, I'm not having a go at the kid. I've mentioned that Mason Greenwood has only got 1 goal in the league this season so far, and Dan James has got 2, who's played less than half the game time. It's also come to my attention since I did that tweet that Wan-Bissaka's got 2 goals in the league. So both Wan-Bissaka and Dan James have scored more goals than Mason Greenwood in the league. Why do I mention it? It appears as though I'm having a go at the kid. I'm not doing it for that reason whatsoever. There's that many people, that many of the fan base who rely on goal scoring stats to say this player's playing well or that player's playing well, and such and such a player is not scoring, so he's off form. I believe Anthony Martial, for example, is playing well virtually every time he plays. Well, he is. He plays well every time he plays. There's just the only difference. Even against Sheffield United, and I did a player in focus about the Sheffield United game where he got such a slating. I thought he played. Somebody had a go at me as well for saying adequately. We want more than adequately. We do want more than adequately. But when I say he played perfectly adequately, so many of the rest of the team were so poor, he couldn't play any better. Even playing adequately, for me, he was our best player that day. I honestly mean it. And I watched the game 4 times in the end. He played perfectly adequately. And if some of the others would have played adequately, we probably would have got the points. So Anthony Martial's getting slated all the time. And the fact that he's not scoring goals is what's levelled at him. I mean, he scored 2 last night. I've no doubt some people will be saying he played great last night when he came on. He probably didn't play any better. It's just that 2 chances came. Well, his first goal was barely a chance. It was a fantastic goal the way he took that. But you can't do that every time you play either. So I think he's playing fine. Now, everybody's on his case, slating him all the time. And yet, there's also lots and lots of the same people. I know Mason's only young, and I know Mason's going to come strong, or I hope he's going to come strong, and he'll have a great career and score a lot of goals. But I'm a believer in you get your place in the first team when you're good enough. And I'm also a believer, as everybody will know about, I'm not an ageist either when it comes to people turning 30. So many people seem to think you've turned 30, you've finished. I noticed Jagielka played against us for Sheffield United, he's 38. James Milner played 2 games in a row for Liverpool in the space of 3 days. He's 35. And yet also we've signed Cavani. I think Cavani's 34. Everybody's banging on. He's got to be in the team. He's got to be in the team. And yet for months and months, people have been saying Matic is too old. He's only 32. maybe coming up 33, but he's younger than Cavani, definitely. He's younger than James Milner. He's a lot younger than Jagielka. Yet so many of our fans are saying Matic is over the hill, Juan Mata's over the hill. You know, they're two top quality players who are not over the hill. They've got a good 2 or 3 years in them at least. So I don't get why so many people get so much criticism and then other people are put on a pedestal. Now, Mason, for example, he's put on a pedestal because of the amount of goals he scored last year. Now, this season, that many of the fan base are criticising Anthony Martial in particular because he's not scoring, and yet Mason is still held up there. I know he's a lot younger. I know he's as I've just said, that doesn't matter. You know, he scored 1 league goal. And I'm not criticising him for all that. I'm really not. It doesn't matter who scores the goals. I'm pointing out how ridiculous it is what everybody else does. What, not everybody else. What so many people do. Criticism, 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 criticism. Not scoring, not scoring, not scoring. Somebody else not scoring, it doesn't matter. And I've even seen people, I've mentioned this, I put on Twitter this morning that Dan James has scored twice, not twice, well, he has scored twice as many in the league. He's got 2-1, but the difference is 1, obviously. But Dan James has scored more league goals. I've put that on there, and there's people actually saying to me, do you not realise Mason did a lot more than that? His link-up play, I was like that, banging my head against the wall. That's what I've been saying about Anthony Martial for the last 6 months. Don't worry about him not scoring goals. So the only reason I'm bringing this up is it's the same thing for a different player. And they'll both score goals in the end. Greenwood, I'm sure, will start scoring goals. Martial really has already started scoring goals. Another tweet that I put out there, you know, he's scored as many goals as anybody else in the last 10 games. There's only Bruno scored as many as Martial in our last 10 games now. Now, you might say, why 10 games? But I've heard people say on form, he shouldn't be in the team, and they're using goal scoring as form. But form can't go back to last season or the season before. In this season, you can't really go back more than 10 games. You know, if you look at the bookmakers, for example, I think they go back 6 games. They're looking at form, and the bookmakers don't get a lot wrong. They go back 6 games when they're looking at form. So on form, on goal scoring form, Anthony Martial scored 3 goals in our last 10 games. Only Bruno has scored as many. Nobody else has. So, and that obviously that's after last night, scoring 2 last night. But doesn't matter. That is the form book at the moment. So people need to get off his back, basically. And I'm not getting on Mason's back. I'm just explaining that you don't need to start banging on about somebody not scoring any goals. And as I've just said, there's people on Twitter today saying, oh, Mason played great, he's playing great, he's holding it up well, he's passing it well. They're saying the exact same thing that I've been saying for ages about Martial. But that's that. It's a great win. The goal difference was a big boost. The 9 goals, obviously, it's put us right up there alongside City and Liverpool, or there's not much in it. City's is still a bit better than ours. I think we've jumped ahead of Liverpool on goal difference, but not by much. City play at Burnley at 6 o'clock tonight. City are on 44 points on the same game. On 20 games. We've only played 20. We've played 22 games. I've got 44 points. So if we're going to stay in the hunt, I'd love us to stay in the hunt. I mean, I think the title race might be taking a bit of a turn, a bit of it taking shape suddenly. Leicester have been up there and spoken about as possible candidates. But I've noticed they're at Fulham tonight, and that's a tricky fixture, Fulham away. So I think you might find there's a gap opening up there. I mean, Leicester might go and win there. I fancy they won't win there. I mean, if they get a draw there, they move on to 40 points. They'll have played 22 games. City will have played 21 games tonight. So they could be 7 points behind City tonight if City win at Burnley. Obviously, I hope City don't win at Burnley. But I do think it's taking shape. I think there's a great chance that in the next few days or the next week or so, you might find that there's a bit of a gap between City, ourselves and Liverpool and the rest, if you like. Another tweet that I put out today was that the top 4 at the minute, maybe I shouldn't tempt fate, but at the minute, top 4 looks absolutely nailed on, because all the other teams are you know, 3 and 4 and 5 points further back than Leicester even. So I don't think, you know, it'd be a calamity if we were to lose out on the top 4 looking at the table at the minute. But as I say, Leicester are at Fulham tonight, which I really don't fancy them to win there. I really don't. City are at Burnley. Can be a tricky fixture, although City at home against Burnley, I think there's a record out there. I saw it, you know, when they played there. It's a record from the league football ever since the league started 150 years ago. They've beaten Burnley by 6 the last 4 occasions, I think, that they've played them at home, though, not away. So they're away to Burnley tonight. It can be tricky. I expect City to win, but the longer Burnley can hang on, you know, you never know. Always say you don't know. So let's see what happens in that one. Liverpool are at home to Brighton. I'm a massive admirer of Graham Potter at Brighton. I think he's doing a fantastic job to play some great football, but I don't fancy them really to upset Liverpool tonight. They've just turned a corner, Liverpool, I think, with an easy win at Spurs and a good win at West Ham. So I don't see him slip. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see him slipping up tonight. Our next game, by the way, as I've just said, I just want us to stay in the hunt. This Everton game, I'm going to look ahead a little bit further than this, by the way, and I'll repeat what I always say. The players can't do this. The management staff can't do this. It's okay for fans to do it. What does it matter if we do it? So after we play Everton, and Everton's a tough game, make no mistake about it. But if we can beat Everton, and something else we shouldn't do either is take teams lightly. But again, that applies to the manager and the staff. It applies to the players. Doesn't matter for us. I'm going to say, after we play Everton, we've got to play West Brom and then Newcastle. That should be 6 points. As I've said, I'll repeat it. The manager can't say that. The players can't say that. They can't think like that. We can think like that, though. If we can beat Everton on Saturday, it's an 8 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. Next 2 games are West Brom and Newcastle. That should be 9 points out of the next 3 games. We'll be getting really close. We've played 22 games at the minute. We'll be on 25 games, and obviously we can't be anywhere but at least level with City at the top. And at least a point in Liverpool. They've got a game in Liverpool are on 40. They've got a game in hand on us. If they win that game in hand, obviously they can get to within a point of us. But if we can win these next 3 games, starting with Everton, which is the toughest one of the 3, you know, with 25 games in there and right at the top of the table, I will start to get giddy. I promise you. So that's that. I'll look forward to that on Saturday, the 8 o'clock game. I'm going to do the rating show. I'll be back this evening with that. I hope you've enjoyed that little roundup of how the league is, what I think about number 10s and what sort of players play there and how they play there. If you've enjoyed it, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anyone. Keep school.